Hey, loves.
Welcome back to Sierra and Ryan.
Talk the talk. Sierra and Ryan is all about putting book talkers at the center of the story.
And we're here to find out all the main character moments in your life. Starting with these two main characters, my name is Ryan at Rye_Brary on TikTok, and my incredible co-host is
Sierra, also at CCB Reading on TikTok. Now, me and Ryan are both book talkers who are part of this amazing community, and we want to get to know all about you guys who are part of the community as well.
Absolutely. And each episode, we'll bring a new book talker in a deep dive into their personal lives, try to get to know them a little bit behind the screen. In the middle, we're going to ask a little bit of show and tell. So something from the shelves, maybe a book recommendation or something that tells us about them a little bit more. And then we're going to close it out with some quick wit rapid fire at the end of the interview. And hopefully by the end, we know some of our favorites a little bit better.
Yes. And today's guest, who I'm really excited about because he's very different from anyone I think we'll ever have on the show so far, and that is Panic Kyle. Kyle Johnson at Panic Kyle. Yes.
Really
I
excited.
I thought it was going to be great to have him because he's like more like a literary on the literary side, and he's completely different from any. I don't think I follow anyone else who's like him. Do you?
No, and in truth, this is a Jeopardy house here. And so since following Kyle, I am loving all of the little quizzes. There are literally some where there is the doo-doo-doo behind. I don't want to copyright, but the Jeopardy theme song behind, and it's really cool. And I love that kind of trivia. I've been wrong for a bunch of them, but in general, I think there's so many interesting things there. And I'm a classics. We've talked about this a lot.
Yes, we have.
I do. I love the classics. Wishbone got me hooked up at a very young age. And so
Yes,
the
Wishbone.
obsession, yes, Wishbone. The obsession continued. And I think I'm excited for anyone that kind of analyzes and dives in. It's really interesting to me, and there's a couple different things that Kyle's done as well with punctuation, and it's very fascinating stuff.
He has a really, I find his page to be very diverse in like kind of the things that he offers. And like you said about the quizzes, I love the quizzes, get them wrong
Same.
just about all the time too. But you know what? I like to feel like I might know something. So I participate anyway. And he has a really awesome way of like, his voice is really calm. So he kind of like explains things, and it makes you feel like you've taken something away from him whenever you watch his TikToks. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel. So I think it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to see you guys hit it off about classics. I'm just going to be on the side like, oh, look at this. That's so cute.
Now listen, my Wishbone knowledge of classics versus Kyle, it could be way over my head, but I'm here, okay? I'm going to participate as much as I can. So
I know, right? We may be in over our heads, but I think we're going to have a great time nonetheless.
I think so too. I'm excited to bring him in.
Well, friend, are you ready to talk?
I think we shall. Let's talk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Our guest is here. Ryan and I are so excited. Kyle from Panic Kyle, how are you? Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Hello. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, we were kind of debating on who we should have on the show as part of like our very first season. And I was like, Kyle has to be on this show. He's completely different from everyone that I follow on TikTok. So I love your content. I love what you do. I'm just really excited to have you on the show. So I really appreciate you. I do want to get started by asking you, why TikTok? How do we get there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I started creating on TikTok about a year ago. It might actually be exactly a year ago. And for a few months, I downloaded TikTok just during the pandemic, enjoying other people's videos. And I think when it came to book talk, which is what I was kind of gravitating toward, I was noticing that maybe I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. I still liked everybody that I followed. I still liked their posts and engaged with them. But it was a lot of, kind of panning over your whole stack of books and It'd be like a 15-second video, and nobody was actually going into depth with any passages in the books or what they were really about. It was mostly just about people's opinions about what they were reading. And so I was reminded of this Toni Morrison quote that I love, and it's kind of become my mantra. And I don't know the exact quote, but it's something like, if there's a book that you wish to read and it has not been written, you must be the one who writes it.
Yes.
So I kind of took that to heart and thought, well, if I'm not getting really what I'm looking for out of TikTok, maybe I should just be the one to do what I'm looking for. So that's what started it all. The first post that I made was about The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, which I enjoyed. The first post that really blew up was my post about The Stranger by Albert Camus. And that was a surprise. I found that most of the videos that do the best are ones that I don't put as much work into.
Same.
I don't know if that's the same for you all, but
Yes.
that video about The Stranger, I think I was like about to go on a bike ride, and I thought I should just make this video real quick, and then I get to go on the bike ride. So I took about, 10 or 15 minutes to make that video. And then when I came back from the bike ride, I saw that I had gotten like 400 new followers all of a sudden.
Wow.
And then it just continued. So I think just from that video alone, I probably got 15 or 20,000 followers. So that was a big surprise. I didn't actually think that anybody would care about what I was posting. Most of the time, I kind of just approached TikTok as, I'm going to use this as kind of a video journal of what I'm reading and maybe my thoughts about the reading, how to interpret it and stuff like that. So I still kind of keep that philosophy today. In a way, I don't really care if people see the videos or not. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah.
1,000,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And I think kind of like just going back for what you said about like putting the least amount of work into something. I think that TikTok's like a really great platform for that. I call it like the platform for like mistakes and really true authenticity and honesty, because it's like the more you are as yourself, it seems like the more viral you can go. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think
It's
so
incredible
too.
that fast videos tend to be the 5, 6, 7 seconds tend to be the ones where people really amass a lot of followers, and you're now at 68,000, and the majority of your content is long form. And I think it just speaks to the fact of what you said, that if you create it, people will come. I am not having the same. Any video that I talk for more than I think 5 seconds, I have zero like engagement, but it's all the stuff that I love. And so to your point, I don't really care either. I think keeping that just record of what I was reading and what I was doing is the best part. But there are a few accounts, I think, that really dive into that long form like yours that really, really are so fascinating. Your punctuation posts I find really beautiful. I love art. So on the looking at it, when you were talking about the speed of a novel, so for everyone that is listening, Kyle has some punctuation posts on TikTok where all of the words are removed and just the punctuation from these novels are left, and some really, really incredible ones. But it's interesting just to see how spaced out some stuff is, or how condensed, and to your points that you've made in your videos, how that affects the tone of what that novel looks like just from one kind of airdrop page. How did you get started in that, and where do you find those punctuation pictures?
I don't even remember how I found that, but that's another video, by the way, that it probably took me 10 minutes. I was about to go, eat lunch on a Sunday or something. Wanted to knock that video out before I left. So it really took me 10 or 15 minutes, and I think at this point that video has the most views out of any video on my page.
Oh, wow.
And that's also one that's not, I wouldn't call it necessarily long form. I think that video is about 30 seconds long. But I don't know. I kind of just in general, I don't know if it's my own personality, but I have an interest in punctuation already. I think that you can interpret a lot out of a novel or a writing style just based on that aspect. And it's something that I've thought about before and kind of made some comparisons between authors. So I don't know. I may have just stumbled upon it on a Google search or something, searching, punctuation style in Charles Dickens or something like that, and came across, this guy who I think at the time that he created this algorithm that would that would extract the words from a text and just leave the punctuation. I think that he was going to MIT at the time, and he had done a lot of work with that algorithm alone, and then also the algorithm that would convert each punctuation into a different color, and it kind of created these pieces of art in a way.
That's really awesome. I do have a question. So, literary, to choose that, is that something that was just always in you, or did you go to school for English, or why choose to? I mean, because you like rip apart text, and I love that about your page. Like you kind of like break it down, and that's always something I've been interested in personally. But why do you do that? Like, is that something that's always been in you? Was that taught to you? Was it instilled in you? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, so Sierra, you know a little bit about this because we talked about this on my podcast a little bit, but you wouldn't know this from TikTok, but most of my academic background is actually in the field of music. So I did English in undergrad, but then at the master's and doctorate level, I studied the field of music. But I think just in general, my personality is one that I like to analyze things. I love puzzles. I like kind of figuring things out on a very mechanical level. And that translates into music theory and music history and stuff like that as well. But I'll back up even more from there and tell you all that when I was growing up, my mom was a single mother, and we didn't have much money. So I think that a lot of times she was just wondering what we could do together that was affordable. So her solution was to take me to the library every week. So I kind of grew up in that environment and, recognized the librarians, got recommendations from them, met people, friends, young people at the library. And so it always was kind of a safe space for me. I think even now, I'm involved in my public library now, and I still think of it that way. I also consider myself to be very introverted. And so just having a place like that is quiet, that's controlled, that has this knowledge, which it's a place for knowledge, which I really respect. I don't know, the library has always been one of my favorite places, and maybe my mom was the one who laid the groundwork for that. But yeah, going back to your question of why I'm more analytical in my approach, I don't know. I think I'm just fascinated with this question of if I like something that I read or if I really dislike something that I read. My first response for myself is, what is it exactly about the text that's making me feel that way? And so maybe my posts and this bent towards analysis is my way of hopefully trying to answer that for myself.
Got it. Yeah.
I love that story about your mom.
Absolutely.
I think Sierra also has a reader for a mom, and same with mine was all like FBI stories and that kind of stuff. But she was reading all of them. It was wild. So, but I love that.
Yeah.
Well, see, the ironic part is that my mom is actually not really much of a reader.
She was looking for something for you to do.
Just smart, okay?
Yeah. I think she would probably say she reads the Bible, which is also ironic just with my own beliefs, that I'm her spawn. But I don't know. I think that she's told me before that she feels like she buys a ton of self-help books and ends up reading like 10 pages and never finishes them. And I'm kind of the complete opposite. I read a lot of everything, although I tend to dislike self-help books, and I don't read the Bible.
I don't like self-help books. Same.
Another great post, and then I do want to ask some non-bookish little personal questions, but I do have a quiz question for you, Kyle. I love your name that author posts. I have been wrong, I think, both times as I checked my own answers in the comments or was just completely like, oh, I'm not sure. But I have one for you if you are willing to indulge.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Kyle, name that author. This author, named after Ralph Waldo Emerson, was the first Black author to win the National Book Award in
Ralph
1952.
I told you.
I told you he was gonna get it.
I told you. I told you.
And
I
Kyle,
should've put a
tell the
bet
people
down.
what the book was.
Invisible Man.
The Invisible
I
Man.
should have put a bet down.
Dang, I should have gone for my harder. Okay, Kyle, let me ask my harder question. Also
Okay.
1952. In this 1952 classic play by Samuel Beckett, who are Dee Dee and Go-Go waiting for?
Godot.
Damn, Kyle is smart as shit. Dang, Kyle. Kyle, what's your star sign?
Is that my horoscope
Astrological,
sign?
yeah.
So I'm on the cusp of Sagittarius and Scorpio.
Wow.
Very, very deep thinking. Very interesting. Love that.
Does that
It does.
illuminate your questions?
I could make
about
it all
me?
connect if I wanted to, so sure. That is too fun.
Oh wow.
A little bit on a lighter note, Kyle, I have, outside of books, I've seen that you have spent a good amount of time that I've seen traveling and outdoors at the beach. What does Kyle do when he's not reading?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, music is still a big component of my life. So I still play the piano, I perform a bit. But, you know, in normal times before COVID, I was probably going to a couple concerts a week. So I live in the Washington, D.C. area. So there is that kind of outlet. There's a ton of theater companies and musical groups and stuff like that. So I try to do that a lot, just kind of consuming culture. I don't know. I like exercise. I used to be a big biker and a swimmer. But yeah, reading, music, exercise, vegetarian cooking. I've just gotten into these meal kits, you know, like HelloFresh, because I realized that I hate to cook.
Me and you both. And I loved HelloFresh, but I didn't like the other one with the orange box. I can't think of their name.
I want to try them all because, you know, they offer promotions for like the first few weeks of your getting the boxes.
They do.
So I want to just go down the line and like get the free boxes and then cancel. But you know, the thing about cooking is I hate the entire process. I hate figuring out what to cook. I hate going to the grocery store. I can never find anything in the grocery store. I hate the actual cooking. I hate the cleanup. And then usually the stuff that I used to make ended up not even being that good. So it was like, oh, I just did all this work and the food's not that good.
I feel like you're in my head. I feel like you're in my kitchen as well. Cooking is a pain point for me as well, and I hate it so much. That's why I tried HelloFresh, but I found it to be a little bit too expensive. So I was like, I could probably figure this out on my own, but it's got its pros and its cons for sure. But I wanted to ask you, so you said you were before pandemic, you were going to quite a few concerts. I'm interested to know what kind of music you were like. What kind of concerts you were going to? What kind of music do you listen to? Because you play the piano, so I'm just trying to figure out like what you know, what's your style, what's your vibe?
So when you traditionally when you get a degree in music, that means that you are trained classically. So that's most of my background, and so it's that type of concert most of the time that I'm going to. I will say that one of my favorite venues is actually at the Library of Congress. They have a concert hall there, and I served as an usher, just a volunteer usher, for a few concerts before the pandemic. But they have quite a diverse selection of stuff that's coming through there. So there's classical, there's world music. I think that they had an event with Garth Brooks and his wife, which was kind of cool to see. There was an event with the current poet laureate of the United States, who also writes music, and so she was performing some of her music. So yeah, I'm really open to everything, especially when it comes to, I don't know, this kind of, I don't want to say more intellectual culture, because that makes it seem so highbrow and like inaccessible to others.
Yeah.
But I usually, I will say, I usually don't go to something like a punk rock concert or, I probably wouldn't go to see Kesha or something like that.
She might be a great
Although
time,
I
though.
listen to those, I listen to that music because, I mean, if I go to the gym, I need something to pump me up, so I'll listen to pop all the time.
Yeah. I reason I asked about the music specifically is because I was going through your TikTok page and I saw that you had the one of your playlists was tied poetry, I believe. And one of my favorite rappers is Kendrick Lamar, and I saw you did a piece on his song Fear, and I was like, well, this was interesting to me because, front facing, and this is why we do this show because, you only see what people are presenting to you. And so front facing, you give me this classical literary type of vibe, but I was really shocked to see that on your page. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Was that something new for you to do in terms of like hip hop, or were you like, I'm going to try something different, or did someone suggest that to you?
I think in general, I mean, I always will try to go for openness. So I'm open to reading whatever or to trying to analyze whatever. With Kendrick Lamar, that album of his, which is entitled Damn, won the Pulitzer Prize for music. And so because it had some accolades, I thought there's something has to be here. So I was trying to kind of understand it on a lyric level, analyze it in using some of those terms of literature or literary analysis. And I found that with that song in particular, those forms of analysis definitely work, which was something I definitely was trying to convey in that video. So yeah, I like that album a lot. And then his other album, To Pimp a Butterfly, I think is also very much deserving of a lot of credit. And I appreciate it because it appeals to me on that kind of analytical level.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it would appeal to other people on like more of a level of great beats or great production or that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We talked about your mom a little bit earlier. Your dad has also been a force in your reading life in the way of making some pretty epic bookshelves, and I believe out of kitchen cabinetry. So I wanted to ask, where is that same connection with reading with your dad, or is it strictly more of a carpentry kind of physical thing?
No, my dad doesn't read. Okay. I think he might be dyslexic actually, but no, he's a rural Kentuckian. So I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky, from central Kentucky, and he lives outside of Lexington in a little town called Paris, which in Kentucky is in a county called Bourbon County, which is where they were known for making a ton of illegal bourbon like 100 or 200 years ago. They're no longer producing bourbon, but it kept its name, Bourbon County. Anyway, I think he's more interested in four-wheeling and playing golf and building an addition on his house and taking care of 6 or 7 cats or something like that. But yeah, the bookshelf is impressive. I was telling him that, so I was moving out of a place that I lived and I didn't have a bookshelf, or I was using somebody else's bookshelf that I was living with. And I told him I had all these books and nowhere to put them. And he's like, oh, well, I have all this old cabinetry in our garage that we weren't going to use. So I could try to make something. So I was like, oh, okay. So he made the very tall bookshelf. And I don't know if you can tell in the videos, but I'm a quite tall man. I'm 6'6". And
Wow.
the bookshelf is basically,
Mm-hmm.
the bookshelf is at my eye level, basically, the top of the bookshelf. So, it's a very large bookshelf. And I liked it so much that I kept collecting books, obviously. So I went back to him and asked him if he could make a second one. So he made another one that's about half the size of that tall one. So yeah, I have 2 homemade bookshelves in my apartment. They're super heavy, super hard to move, but they look good and they hold everything, and it's very sturdy.
Love it.
That's so sweet that he did that for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
And you did answer another one of my questions, which was I was not going to ask, but from your videos, I felt like I think Kyle's really tall. Like I feel like much taller than I'm 6'1", and I was thinking I feel like Kyle's definitely like 6'6". That is. Do you have? Is your whole family tall?
Not really. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe a little on my dad's side, but yeah, I think, growing up when I was always playing piano, always reading and doing these introverted things. So in Kentucky, I mean, the big sport is basketball because the University of Kentucky is such a competitive basketball team on the national level. So everybody was always asking me growing up, being always the tallest person in the class or whatever, if I played basketball. And so, you have to figure out a response to that if you don't actually play basketball. But eventually I found swimming. So I was able to tell them that I was a swimmer. And I think it comes in handy as a swimmer, being taller.
I think it definitely does. I used to swim as a youngster. Didn't go far, but that's okay. I mean, I'm
You
only
needed
five.
that 6'6" wingspan.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm 5'5". This is as good as it gets for me. So, but yeah, swimming's a great exercise. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. Friend, is it time for us to switch and do the rapid fire questions that we have?
Show and tell, friend.
Show and tell. That's right. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna
and
get it right.
tell. Show
and-
and tell. So for
this,
show and
this
tell,
is my show and tell.
yes,
Okay.
Kyle, this is when you show us a little something from your shelves, a book recommendation, or something that tells us a little bit more about you.
So I'm going to choose a book that I just finished reading, and it is the last book I read that I was speechless. Like, I had no idea what to think. I didn't know whether I liked it. I didn't know whether it was good. And that is this book that won the Man Booker Prize, which is a prize out of England, I believe, in 2018, and it's called Milkman
I feel like I've heard of this book before.
by Anna Burns.
Okay.
It's basically about this unnamed narrator who is growing up in what seems to be Northern Ireland, where there's a lot of conflict with separatists and Protestants and Catholics and all that stuff. And she starts being stalked by this person named the Milkman. And so it's basically just a book about her growing up in that environment. It's a super, super dense book, super wordy, super kind of hard to understand what's really going on. But I think that that's kind of the point, and that's why she wrote it that way, Anna Burns. So I'm still kind of processing it, but I would wonder if anybody listening to your podcast would have read this book, or would want to read it and let me know what they thought of it, because I'm still having trouble kind of forming my own thoughts around it. This is the kind of thing, by the way, that would normally become a TikTok video if I'm using, TikTok to try to process my feelings about something. But this is the type of language that is common throughout the entire book. This is one of the final sentences. I exhaled, and for a moment, just a moment, for a moment, I almost nearly laughed. So it's kind of, there's nothing really that special about the sentence, but I think the fact that she's repeating so many things and there's a redundancy to the language, so just for a moment is repeated, and then those words almost nearly, you could take one of those words out. Why does it need to be almost nearly? Right. But in the end, when she says, I almost nearly laughed, that means she didn't laugh. So there's kind of that juxtaposition at play as well. So I find that kind of thing fascinating. And that's the type of sentence structure that she's writing with through the entire book. It's really puzzling to read at times. So yeah, that's my show and tell, is this book, Milkman, which I read because of a book group. That's one of the ways that I get stuff on my reading list. Mm-hmm. And I'm so appreciative of book groups, because I wouldn't normally read a lot of the books that I have to read for the group. So a lot of people in the group had similar reaction to me, where they were kind of fascinated with the use of language and what the style was. But then other people in the group really, really hated this book. Someone called it an abomination to language.
Wow.
Okay.
So yeah, I think when there's that kind of polarizing views about something, that's when I want to swoop in and figure out what's going on. So yeah, Milkman by Anna Burns.
See, I love the way you just describe that whole thing, which just gives our listeners a chance to see what your context content is like, because you kind of broke down that sentence like that. So I just had a moment. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm here for.
Now, without reading the novel or giving too much away, does that kind of repetitive, almost overthinking thought, is that part of that character? Is there a little bit of anxiety with that character through the novel?
It's
so I was gonna say, that sounds like my internal dialogue, so I'm thinking anxiety
it's super,
is present.
Like, I would say 90% of the novel is just her inner dialogue and her, like, describing in really strange ways things that are going on or that she's seeing. So it's one of those psychological novels, I think. And that isn't to say that it's like a thriller or anything, because it was a slog to get through. It was tough. But super inner. I mean, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Lolita, how that kind of first person narration becomes so psychological, and almost airtight. You can't really see anything other than the way that narrator is presenting it, which is interesting.
So interesting to have a thriller that really is just taking place in that person's mind against themselves.
You're gonna make me pick up this book. Now I'm interested.
Good luck. Let me know how you interpret it, because I'm still, sure. Even though it seems like, I just talked about it for the last 5 or 6 minutes. It seems like I might, have something to say about it, but really I'm a little bit ambivalent still about it.
Kyle, before we get to our quick wit, I would love to have a meta moment and talk about a pod within a pod. So Kyle, for the listeners or watchers, has an incredible pod called What Are You Reading that just premiered beginning of January, I believe, and has been cranking out some episodes. I was listening this morning. I think I mentioned earlier, but can you tell us a little bit about where the idea came from and how it's been going so far?
Yeah, so the idea came from me kind of on a whim. There wasn't much thought that went into it, actually. I already have a bit of podcasting experience just from a previous project, so it was something that I felt I had some expertise in and that I could kind of whip together if I ever had to do it again. But I don't know, I was just thinking of new things that I could do in 2022, new year, new you. And so I thought, well, the thing that I enjoy the most, the thing that I think I can get the most mileage out of without getting sick of or burnout, is talking with people about what they're reading, which is something I've always enjoyed doing. So I thought, well, how can I make that interesting? And the solution was make super short episodes. So each episode, I think there's one over 15 minutes, but I try to get them between 10 and 15 minutes. And just have kind of streamlined but in-depth conversations about what people are reading, about how they're interpreting it, about any passages that stick out with them or to them. That was kind of the philosophy behind it. And then I put a search out kind of on TikTok, a little informal search, just asking if people would be interested in participating in this initial round of interviews. So there was probably 2 or 3 weeks where I was talking with someone every day, which gave me a lot to edit. And I found that I would cut about 50% of what was talked about. So usually the conversations lasted 20 or 30 minutes, and I would cut it down to, like I said, between 10 and 15 minutes. But it's been fun. I mean, it's given me something to do and offers me even more connection with people that I follow on TikTok. We're mutual followers. So that's one of my favorite parts about TikTok, is how it kind of brings people together within a kind of sub-community, ours being Book Talk. So I was happy to continue that with this podcast and talk to some interesting people. Most of the books that people have brought up, I have never heard of. The one that Sierra talked about, I had never heard of, but I was really glad that was represented, because it was a YA book and no one had talked about a YA book yet. I'm getting ideas for my own reading, stuff that I might be interested in reading. And also, I really like hearing how people's personality comes out when they talk about the books they like. So that's kind of the main goal of the whole thing.
I think the format's great,
it's
too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is my 3rd podcast, by the way. So
nice.
I'm a podcast professional. But I love the format, and starting a podcast, a lot of people don't know this, but you kind of have to have a reason for it. And I think yours is perfect because it gets right to the point. And we learn these days that a lot of people's attention span just isn't there. So I really enjoyed the whole process, from the way you had it set up, how we came in. You were like, okay, we're gonna get right to the point, and I was like, yes, let's do it. Like, I think it's a wonderful format. So I just want to compliment you on doing a great job. I think it's awesome. I really think it's awesome.
Thanks.
All right, see, you ready for?
It's time for our rapid fire
It's time.
questions. All right, Kyle, these are super easy. 10 questions. If you don't have an answer for it, you could just say pass. Promise you no pressure, all right? I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, what are they asking me? It's super, super easy. So Ryan will start, and we'll alternate back and forth. All right, are you ready?
At @panic_Kyle. Are you ready for some quick wit?
Is this the first question?
No. Oh, that's a bonus question. That's like we'll put the name at the top of the test.
All right.
Question one.
I'm ready. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Morning, noon, or night?
For what?
Up for interpretation here.
I would say that I am most creative at night. I get most of my ideas and most of my motivation to do things at night.
All right. Next question. What was your favorite book growing up?
I liked Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Louis Satcher, I think it is.
Where are you a regular?
There's a tofu place that's up the street from my house.
Yeah.
There's this Vietnamese shopping center that's kind of cool. I mean, they have bubble tea and a bunch of other stuff, a grocery store, and then little shops. And one of them specializes in Vietnamese desserts, different types of rice, and then this tofu that they have different flavors of. That's my favorite. I probably go there 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, you really are regular.
Love it.
I love it. Okay. Celeb that is a friend in your head, or a celebrity crush that you have?
Oh, wow. That's tough. This is one I want to think about. Can I pass for now?
Yes, you can.
I was going to say, Kyle wanted to say us, but... Kyle, if you could take us anywhere in the world tomorrow, where are we going?
I would actually bring you all here to where I live in DC and give you the tourist experience and also the local experience. So I could show you, different things that only the locals know about.
I might have to take you up on that offer, friend.
Yeah, let's do it. Let me know if you're ever in the
I
area.
definitely will.
Oh, yeah.
Next question. Do you fall asleep to music, TV, or nothing?
I'm an ASMR person, so I need some, or like a kitten purring or a thunderstorm or something like that. Yeah. But normally, if I don't listen to something like that, it has to be silence, and I also need complete darkness to sleep.
Me too.
Kyle, what's your best Halloween costume ever?
When I was growing up, I only wanted to be Dracula every year. So it never really branched out from there.
Okay.
All right. What is your theme song, or if you don't have one, your go-to karaoke song?
It would be, this might surprise you, it would be My Humps.
Wait a minute.
That does surprise me.
My head just exploded.
Or no, it might actually be Fergalicious. I think the last, I went to a Christmas party a few months ago, obviously, and they had karaoke, and I definitely did Fergalicious. I got every single word because I used to be able to recite that when I was in high school, but it definitely impressed everybody.
I'm impressed. See this in person. Now I have to come to DC. So I need to see this. I got tears in my eyes. I'm sorry. Okay.
Wow. We're not expecting that, Kyle, but we love it.
At all.
What was okay? Over here, that is hilarious. Kyle, how many books have you read this year so far?
Oh, I had a horrible reading month in January. I think it might have just been because I was starting the podcast. But I think in January I may have read one book. This month, February, it's been very good. So I've probably read this year, I don't know, maybe 8 books.
Yeah.
Any big standouts?
Other than The Milkman, which I'm still ambivalent about, I read A Raisin in the Sun, which I've talked about on TikTok.
Yeah,
so good.
But I love this play. I think more people should read it and should reread it. And then today I just read another play this morning, a Cormac McCarthy play, which is called The Sunset Limited, which is about a white man and a black man who are just labeled, that's their characters' names, is white and black. They're sitting around a kitchen table, and you learn that the black man has saved the white man from jumping into the subway tracks, attempting to kill himself. So they're sitting around this table talking about God mostly, but just their value system.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Now I got 2 things I need to read from this episode. The last question we have for you. What was the last thing to make you smile?
Definitely you all. I mean, this conversation. I think in general also, we all have kind of these TikTok accounts that we follow that are unrelated to book talk or to things that we would probably normally be interested in. That's kind of my favorite thing about TikTok, is you get a glimpse into these other sub communities. So I think my favorite TikToker is this girl who teaches people how to do crossword puzzles. And then there's another one that's just devoted to sheep herding. So it's this guy in like Scotland or something that has these 2 border collies, and he teaches about the commands and how he herds the sheep and stuff like that. So it's super interesting.
Love it. Love it.
Did you figure out who your celebrity crush was?
Well, so I was trying to keep it to like book related.
It doesn't
But I would
have
say-
to be book related though.
I don't know if I would say it's a crush, but I would definitely want to sit down with Sally Rooney, who wrote, Normal
World,
People.
Where are you? Yep.
Yeah. I just think that she'd be interesting to talk to. But I don't know. I used to like Brad Pitt a lot. I used to like his movies. So yeah, I'm sorry for that being a bad answer.
No.
Not a bad answer.
Not
No
a
bad
bad
answers.
answer at all. I think that is it for us today. Kyle, this was so fun.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
I feel
Kyle,
like
will
I
you
really
tell
do
the
know you
people at
better.
home
Yeah.
where to follow you, where to find you? We'll tag you and all that kind of stuff, but I'd love for you to give a little plug for what you've got working.
Yeah, so TikTok and Instagram will be panic_Kyle. I will say that on Instagram, that's more of my personal page, I would say, but everybody who wants to follow can follow me. I don't care. But yeah, TikTok is the main thing for book-related content. And then there's the podcast, What Are You Reading? So not what are you reading, but what are you reading? So you can search that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you should find it.
Thank you so much for coming, Kyle. That was really fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
That was good.
That
was cool.
That was really great, right? I really feel like I know so much more about him now. Like, I am just absolutely blown away. Listen, I have to get to DC. I need to see him perform Fergalicious. If it's the last
Yes.
thing I ever do in my life, I'm putting it's on my bucket list to get to DC to see him perform Fergalicious, if nothing else.
There is a beautiful mind there and so rich in thought. And I love people who are analytical like that and who look at the mechanics. I'm very obsessed in my personal life with Leonardo da Vinci. And Leonardo da Vinci was one of those type of thinkers that looked at everything and broke it down to mechanics. And sometimes that's obviously like literal big moving things like wheels and wagons. But breaking down those books the way that Kyle does, the way that he looks at it is just very interesting. I am very interested in the book recommendation. I think that is Milkman.
Milkman, right?
Sounds
Milkman by Anna
fascinating.
Burns. I'm definitely interested.
Absolutely.
It feels like that's going to have to be an audiobook for me. Because if I hope it's available in audiobook because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it as through text. But yeah, like you said, just I think it's something so beautiful about the way he breaks down the text. And even we got a glimpse of that when he was showing, doing his show and tell. You can really tell like he's really passionate about that kind of thing. So I mean, I think it's awesome. Like I said, I think he's completely different from anyone we've ever talked to so far. So I think that means a lot that he has 68,000 followers on TikTok. That really speaks to something, especially because he's not doing any like type of gimmicks or anything to get these followers. He's legit
Absolutely.
being himself,
No. And I think the story about his mom was the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because as someone who people might not assume as an introvert, I am. And so I connected very deeply with that story, and having that outlet and that kind of safe, quiet place with all of those brilliant texts around you. And so to think about a younger Kyle there left with all of those books and how that mind just started going in and analyze. I mean, the story was clear, like the thread of that story to now,
yeah.
it's like, there it is. And how incredible that his mom, who not even a giant reader, just by putting him in that space has altered the course of that man's life in such an incredible way, because
Absolutely.
that analyzing absolutely goes into music theory and all of those other avenues of his life. I mean, it's really interesting. I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful story. So props to mom.
Props to mom. Shout out to the mom. And he's a true introvert with all the things that he does. I mean, I too consider myself an introvert, and I know that you
two friends.
oh my God, when we get off of this, I'm gonna be like, ooh, I need to calm down, okay?
Same. Be
But
silent for the rest of the weekend.
I'm telling you, like, don't talk to me. I don't have anything to say. I'm talked out. But yeah, like having so many interests and talents and being so good at all of them. Like I said, he plays the piano, and I've seen several clips on his Instagram. He's amazing. So I mean,
Wow.
I just think I really enjoyed that interview so much. That was a lot of fun. I just feel like I feel like I know him. I feel like I know him now.
Yeah.
You know?
I also feel like I mentioned that I just finished The City We Became.
Yeah.
And have gone back to reread a couple things as I am Googling more about each of the boroughs and like, oh, why did she say this particular thing? But as Kyle was talking, I kept in my mind thinking, this is going to change the way that I look at the text of the next book that I'm reading.
Yes.
And not that I love the English language and I'm writing too, but just the way that he is so breaking down every one of those sentences. I'm more interested. I think maybe sometimes I just kind of glaze over all the little intricate pieces and just go straight to the feelings. And so I'm kind of excited to look in that way. That's how I feel with what I do with nonfiction, but I generally don't bring that kind of analyzing to my fiction that I read. And I think this interview makes me feel differently about how I'm going to open the next book.
Absolutely, friend. And I'm glad you said that, because on Book Talk specifically, you get everyone talking about, oh, I read 38 books this month or whatnot. And now I'm wondering, well, how often are you sitting with the book that you read and taking it apart and actually like analyzing what was said? You know, I finished reading Binti for my book club, 92 pages. And I know that I'm going to have to go back and reread that, because there's so many things that she wrote in that book that I'm like, I need to reprocess this all over again. So I think this is going to change my way of reading as well, in terms of like actually sitting with the text. I found myself falling into the book talk trap of like, oh, I need to read this many books this month. But maybe I don't.
And then you get where you don't even, I mean, I think that comes up a lot on TikTok of, I just read this book. Don't ask me what's in it because I can't remember as soon as I close it. I see a lot of those type of videos.
Yes.
I'm not that bad. I mean, I still remember characters. I think that's why all my top 5 favorites from last year, it was all about the characters that I remembered and their journeys. But I do see a lot of people like, they are just like, "Brrr." I forgot what that was about. I guarantee Kyle, you ask about any book Kyle's read this year or probably last year, could give you a full thesis. And
I
I
would
find
love
that
to-
really interesting.
I wonder if he's read The City We Became. I wonder if he's read any N.K. Jemisin, and I would love to know like how he would break that down and analyze it, because she's such a thorough and deep writer. I think it would be like a match made in heaven almost. Wow. Friend,
That's
I think
very,
we're on.
very
Did he just
interesting.
change our lives?
Kyle.
Damn you, Kyle.
And I have to, I mean, look, just hearing about DC, I have not been back home in a while, and I love DC so
Same.
much. I am obsessive over that city. We talked a little post interview with Kyle just about some of our favorite places, but it's such an interesting, diverse place, and I miss it. So just hearing about that was tugging on my heartstrings too. And Kyle has had a lot of very diverse backgrounds of the places that he's lived, and I think all those experiences just add up to a very, very interesting and complex, deep person. It's
Yeah.
really enjoyable.
I think I see why he would love it. I mean, it's such a great place for culture. DC, if you were looking for some culture, honey, that's where you need to be. So I see why he would love it there, and was trying to find a way to get back there, because from what I remember from living there, it's always something you can get into in terms of the arts anyway. So I see why he would love to be in such a place. But yeah,
I need to take you to the National Mall.
let's go. Let's do
All
it.
the museums. I am a museum lover.
I love to go to
love
museums, but I
them.
don't get to go often. You know, I live in North Carolina, so I get I take what I get. Okay, which is
We're gonna make a
breweries.
trip.
You want to go have some beer? I can take you to plenty of breweries.
Maybe. No, we're gonna go to DC. We're gonna pick up Kyle, and we're gonna hit up the Smithsonian's and
Yeah,
National Archives. We're gonna analyze some deep text.
and then end the night at
Man.
karaoke. I'm gonna never forget this.
I was gonna say I keep forgetting.
I will never forget this. My mind literally was blown. My head exploded on camera. I don't know if you saw it or not. It
Ansa
did,
didn't
though.
miss a word.
Didn't miss a word.
Had to add that in. I didn't miss a word. People were very impressed with me. I was like, you better. Your 6'6" cute self up there
know,
doing
right?
Fergalicious. You better. I love it. I love karaoke.
Oh yeah, me too. That was awesome.
That's good.
Well,
All right.
this is it, you guys. What an awesome interview we've had today. Please make sure you are following us on our social medias. We are on TikTok at sierra.and.ryan. And we are also on
And
YouTube.
Yes.
At-
Sierra.and.ryan.talk. TALKTOK. There's a link. It's much easier. But
Yes, just click the link. Click the link and subscribe. Make sure you're commenting, leaving reviews, all of the good things to move us up the charts. And yeah, that's it. We will see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. Bye.